I'm just fixing my internet here. There. I wanted to talk to you about recipes for leftovers. My family is not really big of having the same thing left over exactly the same way. So if we have roast beef one night, having it a second night as roast beef is not really up my family's alley. Um, Unless it's something that's really good that they really enjoy and we haven't had for a while. But I usually have to repurpose leftovers. I came across this book. As you can see, I made lots of little notes in here, so lots of recipes that my family will enjoy. As um, I don't really consider my family picky eaters, just um, they have different tastes. Like I have one kid who likes, actually they both like broccoli, but my husband likes it raw and not cooked. He will eat it cooked. I have one kid who likes cauliflower, the other one doesn't. Um, they'll corn they'll eat, peas they will eat if my youngest will eat if she has to. But they like salads and stuff like that. So it's really hard sometimes, especially in the wintertime, to get vegetables into things. So what I usually do with vegetables is that I puree them or chop them really finely, and I hide them into sauces and in casseroles and in soups and stuff like that. As it's a texture thing, it's not necessarily a taste thing. So it's all about textures in my family. So either things are too chewy or too soft or too mushy or whatever. It they like a little bit of texture differences, and not everything all kind of the same texture. Like my husband, he doesn't like stew or soups. He will eat them, but not much so stew because it's all big chunks of meat and big chunks of vegetables. If it was in a soup with smaller pieces, he likes them. So it's it's not so much of a picky, just unique texture thing. Anyway, since that's the case, I've learned certain recipes work well for my family. And it's not necessarily even traditional everyday fare. Like, my family loves going for Vietnamese. Go figure. I you know, it's not in my. It's one of the cultures that's not in my culture. I have a whole bunch of other multicultural things in my family, but Vietnamese isn't. But they love going to Vietnamese because they like the salad rolls and the pho soup and the stir fries with the rice noodles and stuff like that. So I tend to try and recreate those type of things at home as much as I can. But main purpose of this chat, if anybody pops in, I can answer any of their questions, was I came across this book. And it's the company's recipes for leftovers. It's actually Canadian, so that's awesome. Um, and I have a few of these type of books, and I've used them in the past. My mom used to have a few of these, and the recipes are all really good, using everyday type of ingredients, with sometimes different flavors or flares. So this one um, has it's organized. I'll go to the beginning here of how it's organized by your leftover ingredient. Like your main leftover ingredient. So there's 30 pages of leftover beef. There's 10 with leftover chicken, um, about 14 with fish, about 20 with ham, 20 with 10, 15 with pork or lamb, turkey, pasta, potatoes and rice, vegetables, miscellaneous. So that's like one if you have a whole bunch of leftover like egg whites. Here's some recipes to use those leftover egg whites. And I was going through this, and the recipes in here are not your typical throw them together into a casserole. No, it's like Philly beef steak sandwich or barbecue beef buns, um, curry beef toast cups, roast beef and pepper sandwich. So these are like using leftover roasts. Um, Tasty beef rolls, pineapple beef wraps. You love making things out of leftovers? Me too, because I actually right now I am cooking 2 roasts that I got into my grocery haul, that I'm still editing that video. Um, I got 2 roasts for $3.44 a pound, so I'm putting them in my turkey roaster, cooking them both up in hopes to make some of these leftover beef rolls. So tonight we're gonna have roast beef and my Nana's brown spaghetti. Sounds weird. It's basically spaghetti, cooked up, and you use the beef drippings and like a gravy packet and mozzarella cheese. So you're making like poutine, but with pasta. Um, and you mix it all together and you serve it as a side instead of potatoes with your roast, and you have your vegetables and maybe some Yorkshire pudding if I get adventurous, because my family loves Yorkshire pudding. So, and that's again using really cheap ingredients: eggs and milk and flour. So I'm really excited. Like, okay, when I was reading through this book yesterday, I got this a couple weeks ago at Value Village, for I think $2. So I was like, okay, give me some ideas, because I love Pinterest and they're very great at finding recipes for you. But I was like, oh, some of this stuff, I'm like, I never thought of, putting this, like it's a roast beef hash. What's it? Avocado beef bunwitches. And what's nice with this book is that a lot of these, they'll show a picture of a bunch of the recipes, and then they'll tell you what is down here, and you can find the recipe. Like this really looks good. The tasty beef rolls. So it's done like a cinnamon roll, but with beef. I just saw a comment pop up where, how do I see that? Show, yes. There we go. Make something that enjoy. I have noodle dishes there at the Have Great. Yeah, like here, like I'm in Canada, so my Nana has a mixed heritage. Like she was born in Quebec and Montreal, but in English speaking. But her background, like her parents were Irish and French Canadian, and there's a little bit of North American Indian a couple generations back, because, well, just because. And she has a lot of like Irish and British Welsh um, recipes that she did up. So whenever she had roast beef, there was always roast potatoes as well, but there was always this brown spaghetti and Yorkshire pudding and roasted vegetables like corn and carrots and potatoes with the roast. So it was always like a big, huge, feast. And then, of course, there was always desserts and stuff like that. But I specifically remember the brown spaghetti, and now I've made it for my kids a few times, and they love it. I mean, like, who doesn't like cheese and pasta and, gravy? So, but it's purposely made like that, so it's like a poutine. So here we have poutine on potatoes. Why not make it with pasta? um, but it's uh, quite a nice side that once it's cooked, you put it in the fridge and reheat it, so it just gets the cheese melted again. So you can make a big batch of it. That's one thing my family will eat: leftovers. Actually, they'll eat that just by themselves. Same with, like, I do something similar with ramen noodles. You cook up the ramen noodles as per directions. You drain the water. You put the seasoning packet in. You put cheese, usually either an old white cheddar or a mozzarella. Um, Mix it in there, and we call it cheesy noodles. You could add maybe some celery salt in it if you don't find it salty enough. That's what my friend's recipe did, but we find it salty enough. Sometimes, like if we do 3 packets of ramen noodles, we will only put like 2 of the seasoning packets in, and I have a baggie in a drawer with the leftover packets, which are great to season soups. My kids love that. Um, Whenever I'm making something like with leftovers, and there's just not enough of each leftover to be a meal. Like we sometimes have a smorgasbord of, we have a little bit of roast beef, a little bit of hamburgers, a little bit of, casserole or whatever, and we take a little bit on our plates of what we want. If there's just not enough oomph or filling, I will make cheesy noodles as a side to complement everything. Actually, my kids would just like sometimes my daughters come home from school. Um, their high school is literally across the street, so sometimes they'll come home and cook up cheesy noodles for lunch, eat it, and go back to school. Um, so it's cheap. Like I mean, I only buy ramen noodles when it's 25 cents a package or 33 cents a package. And cheese is a handful of cheese. Whether it and if it's not shredded, just I just cube it and just microwave it a little bit longer. But it's really easy. But there's some like recipes. So like roast beef hash. Um, so I'm like, oh, I want to make these leftover recipes. So I'm purposely cooking more food so there's lots of leftovers, so that there is going to be a lot of beef recipes this week. See, I don't like shepherd's pie. Maybe it's because my mom couldn't cook. My parents split up when I was a kid, when I was young, so I started cooking when I was like 7 because my mom was working, one or two jobs and stuff like that, and she couldn't really cook. She had two ways of cooking, either burnt or raw. She could make peanut butter cookies though, and as she got better at cooking and I got older, um, the food was better. But she like all we would ever make, like all she would ever make would be hamburgers, fries, and gravy. So you like basically Salisbury steak, which we just call it hamburgers, fries, and gravy. You pan fry it with a gravy, and then you have fries. That was actually the only meal that really tasted well. She would make meatloaf that was always super dry, and she would make shepherd's pie, and it was like gross, disgusting. And she'd make a roast, either chicken or roast beef, and that was okay, but it was always well done. Make my leftover mashed potatoes and cheese. Oh, okay, so cheese might make it better. See, my mom always just did ground beef, cooked ground beef with usually onions and celery, maybe, can of cream and corn, and mashed potatoes on top. And her mashed potatoes were always really lumpy. As I said, my mom was not culinary. My dad, on the other hand, when I would go visit him and stuff, he was the one that was the big cook. Like he would get inspired with flavors and recipes and just wing it. Um, so his was always full of different sauces on meat and cream sauces, this and that and the other thing. So it was like extremes one to the other. And I try and do a little bit of both. I get inspired by my dad's cooking abilities, and my mom's frugalness. So, because she could definitely make a dollar stretch, she could make food last. It just wasn't very flavorful. Mm. My nana, my mom's mom, was a good cook, and my mom's mom tried to teach my mom to cook, but my mom showed no interest. She'd rather go and change the oil in the car or do stuff outside. She was just not um, in the homemaker um, abilities. And my nana had my mom when she was 40, which my nana was born in 1908, and my mom was born in 1948. So she was quite older when she had my mom, and so when she was a teen, she tried to help her to cook and help her around the house because she was already in her 60s when my mom was a teen. Um, but um, that was not her calling, so she was a secretary, an office admin type person. Um, but that's it. So I think I get my experimental cooking abilities from my dad. He would like to look at recipes and not measure. Sometimes he would measure for baking, maybe, but usually he just winged it. And if he didn't have an ingredient, it didn't phase him. He would just substitute with something else, and it usually turned out good, or at least edible. It rarely sucked, except for sometimes when he would forget about something and it would burn. You know, but we all have that. I mean, I don't know. daily basis. I forget about stuff. That's why I like using my I think it's Black and Decker toaster oven. It has a timer, so it like literally completely shuts off, and it holds like a lasagna pan. So I can put in there, set the time, and forget about, because I've many times forgotten that I was cooking supper or something. I'm like, oh, I'm smelling something. Oh, I must be cooking, and I forgot. Yes, exactly. I love saving money, and I love trying to make things from scratch. I do buy convenience foods. I'm not saying I don't do it, but over like this past year, 2017, my New Year's goal was to try and make more things from scratch. So um, instead of buying the Bisquick's mix, I found recipes to make my own. Um, Instead of buying, the brownie package, I have some recipes to make my own. Instead of buying certain like taco seasoning and stuff like that, I have recipes to make my own seasonings. So certain seasonings I still buy and that because it's easy, it's convenient and stuff. And but I now have a bunch of recipes that I can make those seasonings, so I don't have to run to the store. Bread, dessert, pasta made. See, I haven't ventured too much in the pasta making, um, because I don't like. I've made some spatzel, the German pasta. Not as good as the German restaurant, but I followed a recipe for that, and I made like a linguine type pasta. But I found with that the amount of effort. You see the spice mix. What, you see the spice mix? No, I haven't. I haven't seen the spice mix channel. But I'll go look at that. I love um, knowing what's in them, and then I can control how much salt or like I won't have to add MSG and stuff like that because I find with myself like when I go out for dinner, especially like Chinese food, we love Chinese food. Um, there's a lot of MSG in some things, and I find that I get headaches like right behind my eyes if I eat too much of certain dishes that have MSG in it. So, but those are kind of like um, our little vices because certain very cool. Yeah, well, I will definitely put a link under once this is published. Put a link to the channel under this video, and I will definitely go check it out because I love cooking. I love watching cooking shows, and most people that I'm watching on YouTube tend to be cooking or canning or um, trying to be frugal and budgets because I'm trying to um, save some money and that for um, other expenses or for um, fun stuff. Uh, Actually, also saving money that once I clean up more of the freezer to buy like half or a quarter of a cow, because I found when I did that before, I've done it 3 times in the past 8-10 years. Um, it was a money saver and a like the meat was just like superior to the grocery store, and it was always nice to know that you know that the meat was there and I was paying a certain price for all types of meat. So I got some more luxury cuts that I don't buy now, unless it's on crazy sale. Um, but there's so many recipes in here. So in the next few weeks, I'm going to be doing a lot more recipes from this cookbook um, for the leftovers. And there's a whole bunch of um, recipes here for different pasta dishes. Um, and like things, for example, this was looking like a yummy potato and cheese scones. So you know when you make mashed potatoes and you have like a cup or so of mashed potatoes left over, you can make them into bread. So completely transform it into something different. And the picture looked good, and it called for like flour, baking powder, salt, margarine or butter, cheese, mashed potatoes, milk, and egg yolk. I'm like, I have all those other ingredients. So, what type of leftovers What type of foods do you like to cook extra to make purposeful leftovers? I like whenever I make chicken, I like cooking like a bunch of chicken, more than my family will eat. So there's leftovers for a quick lunch or supper. My kids love taking leftovers for lunches, as they're not big sandwich people. Like today, they're taking leftover burgers and they're heating them up at school. Um, okay, I will look for it then. The spice mixes. I was just gonna say, like at the end when it's done, like if you went to the channel and you highlight on that the bar where it says like HTTP dot dot YouTube and just put the link down there. I don't know. I don't know if you can do it while this is live. Um, but so whereabouts are you located? I'm in Canada, so I'm in the suburbs, Canada, of Ottawa. So Ottawa's our nation's capital, and I'm about 20 minutes west of the nation's capital by driving. Um, and you know where I live, I can drive. Well, I don't drive, but if I was in a vehicle, I could drive 5 minutes in pretty much any 5 to 10 minutes any direction, and then I'm hitting country. So just me and my husband now. Utah, very cool. So is that's I'm awful with geography. Is that one of the inside states? So like there's the ones around the coast, and then there's ones in the middle where it's more flat. um, like in Canada, we have mountains, and then there's a whole bunch in the prairies where it's fairly flat, and then we have more mountains over here. Where I live, there's lots of lakes and rivers, and we're in the called the Ottawa Valley. So over the Ottawa River, there's the Gatineau Hills. They're mountains, not quite huge mountains, but they're high enough that there's ski lifts and stuff like that in the wintertime. There's lots of skiing there. Like where we live, we could drive 35 minutes to an hour and a half and go skiing on like big hills that have 5 to 25 ski runs. Um, but we're kind of in a valley, so it's like when weather comes in, like a snowstorm or a rain or that, it tends to stay here for a few days because we have like more of a hills on this side of the city, and then we have the river and the Gatineau Hills here. So it comes and it kind of just like floats around, and then it goes away once it's done its weather business. Um, so that's why, um, if you see on my channel, I tend to do canning, and when I do grocery shopping, I'm preparing to have at least 2 to 3 months worth of food in my pantry, because I never know when there's going to be a snowstorm, that we could not have access to. So, okay, you live. I've heard of Salt Lake. Actually, I have friends who've done skiing in Salt Lake, so um, they actually go down there to ski almost every year because their mountains are like quite bigger than the ones local to us, and it's sometimes cheaper to drive and to go to the States to go do skiing than to drive or fly um, to places in Canada. And Salt Lake is more of like a resort type town, so they have a lot more touristy type things in there. Um, like Ottawa's a big city, but has a smaller town feel. Uh, I wish I wish I had family members that hunted. My husband's legally blind, so hunting is probably not a good idea. And uh, my family is not big hunters. I'm about the most like old school type person of cooking things from scratch, or at least trying to, and canning and stuff. The rest of my family is more of a convenience type food per people, or they'll go to like the farmer's market and get the prepared home cooked or home baked stuff um, at the farmer's market or from the grocery store versus like a frozen pizza. But they will do some, they'll cook some stuff from scratch, but not like they won't make bread, except for my sister-in-law makes lots of bread though. I wish we had lots of land too. We're in the suburbs, so where we live is a townhouse, um, but it's attached on either side. So we have a fairly large um, backyard, all things considered, but not large enough that you could put a pool in it, unless it was a really small above ground, like 8 foot, 10 foot pool. Not that big, but there's enough for like a swing set, barbecue, and patio tables and stuff. So, um, my goal, yeah, 1 acre, nice. My goal is at some point to, move out to the country and have some land and not have to be attached to neighbors, because, you know, my neighbors are pretty good. I'm not complaining, but um, I'd rather have more freedom and space and not really care about my neighbors. So, but I grow veggies in my yard, as well as I have one or two, depending on the year, community garden boxes that I grow veggies in, and I buy veggies and fruit from the grocery store. Like, I price match, and I get them from farmers markets and stuff like that, to try and get the best deals. And then I preserve them for long-term storage, winter storage, and stuff like that. Because up here in Canada, we already have snow. Um, we got a nice little dusting yesterday. We had snow about a week ago, and then it melted, and now snow again. And I'm like, I don't think this one's going to melt. It's only a couple of inches. Um, but I think we're into the winter season. Um, but where I live, we'll have snow. For last year, we had a lot of snow. It was crazy, stupid snow. Like when we had a snowstorm, we got like 2 feet, you know, at once overnight. It's like crazy stuff. Um, yeah, I've done a few things in pots too. Last year, I made a vertical garden with pallets. Here's what it is. Okay, so you get snow. How much snow do you normally get in a year? Like, we always get um, like 5 feet of snow, 4 or 5 feet in a given year. Last year, I think we got something like 8 feet or something, because there was so, like, the snow banks were taller than that. So um, we get snow, and then it'll melt and snow, um, usually November to December, and then once it's below zero, it's here to stay. We got a lot of like freezing rain and stuff like that, because sometimes the temperatures are warmer, but there's still uh, cold breezes and here. Okay, so that's a decent amount of snow, and that's probably really good for your crops in the spring, because it melts back into the fields and stuff like that. I know this past winter we had so much snow that in the spring there was so much flooding that the Ottawa River um, flooded, and even like it's a huge, large river that connects all the way to Toronto, which is like 5 hours, 5 6 hours drive away. Like, it's a river that goes like all the way up from the St. Lawrence, um, and connects with other rivers. So everybody had lots of snow, so the water drained into the rivers, and anybody that was near the river, there was lots of flooding, and there was overflow in our drains and stuff like that. We were lucky. Oh, hi, Youthy. Yeah, I have two people. So there was a lot of flooding, and it was like the worst flooding that we've had in years. Like, there's always a little bit. Yeah, so like, we were lucky. Our house, yeah, exactly. Like, I get veggies from a local farm here. Every 2 weeks, it's an organic farm that I get veggies from in like a CSA box. And this past year, they had to let the clients know that a lot of their veggies were being delayed or they lost a crop because of the flooding. And they had greenhouses over the winter, but they had a delayed planting because of all, like, their fields were completely flooded. Like, they showed videos of them walking in the fields, and it was up to like almost their, like, halfway up their calves, halfway up to their knees. And I'm like, whoa. And there's nowhere to drain it because the ground is flat. You can't just, like, they had ditches and irrigation and all that stuff already set up, but it there's no place for it to go. And we had a very wet spring to begin with, so it wasn't just the um the winter runoff, it was also the rain. So this past year, I didn't water my garden at the community boxes, like the raised garden beds, at all. I watered them the first couple times that I planted my plants, and that was it. So, I was talking about this recipe for leftovers cookbook. I'm purposely making to roast today, um, to have leftovers to make some of these recipes. I'm getting inspired by a whole bunch of these things that I want to make, and I'll be doing some videos with to water a lot this year. Yeah, I didn't water. I watered twice at the beginning of my planting, and that was it. I have a video of our flood in my pasture. Oh, wow. Yeah, we were lucky. So where are, we are a bit on higher ground. But I had neighbors a few streets over that got a lot of flooding in their basements. And the way that my house is, it's kind of like on the hill, so it drains down towards the road. Didn't get enough fruit. Yeah, see, where we are, apples grow a lot here. If you go a bit to more southern Ontario, it has perfect growing season for peaches and plums and pears and nectarines and stuff because they have a more milder winter. Um, we have a harsher winter, and you can't grow those type of fruits up here. And like, nobody grows citrus fruit up here because, well, we have winter. So, um, but there's lots of apples and berries and like watermelon and stuff like that, and a lot of the local farms. So where I live, I'm in the west end of Ottawa, in the suburb called Canada. That's why I'm called Jen in Canada. Um, and within 5-10 minutes drive from my house, further west or south or north, you'll hit farmland, and most of these farms are little local farms, and they have greenhouses and stuff. Yeah, we get there are some cherry trees and that here. You're in Belgium. Wow, Belgium. So you must. Yeah. Only thing I know about Belgium is that they make great chocolate. I've never been overseas. I've been to the States. I've been to the Caribbean, and this past summer I went to the Dominican. So, but I've never taken a flight overseas. I'd like It's on my bucket list of to seeing Europe and that. Hasn't. Yep, yep. Lots of beer. Um, Canada's known for their beer too. Not and More so lately. There's a lot of microbreweries here, and that because we have a lot of wheat. Um, and our beer is stronger here than the States. I think our beer is like 8%. Um, 5.6 to 8%, which I think is about the same level as wine. Yes. Oh, Youthy, if you do some cooking, you gotta do some cooking with your chocolate. Because I really like to learn about cooking with chocolate. Belgian beer stronger too. Yeah. I've had friends who've gone to Europe and all the European um, cities have like really good stout beers. Personally, I don't like beer. I think it's because in my early 20s, I drank too much beer, you know, in college and threw up and got sick, and now I just don't like beer. Rum, rum I like. Hard alcohol, I like. Mixed drinks. The creme, Irish cream or Bailey's in your coffee, right up there. Ooh, you love chocolate. I love chocolate. Um, I I bought myself some of the Lindt chocolate. They were on sale at Costco. I bought one box for a gift and one box for me as my little storage until rum cocktail. Like a fruit punch and rum and pineapple or orange or whatever. Yum. But yeah, no. Uh, my husband, he's not a big beer drinker either. He'll go out for, if he has drinks with friends, he'll either get a mixed drink or he'll have like one of those microbrewery beers, or like they'll have like a hard cider or something. Um, but we're not big alcohol drinkers. We do during the holidays, or if we go out, or if we're on vacation. As a rum apple punch. That sounds yummy. When we're on vacation, we'll drink, but not to excess, because usually if we're on vacation, we go to like a place that's like all inclusive, so um, we don't have to worry about costs and stuff. But if we go to a place that it's not all included, I don't like spending money on drinks in a restaurant or bar, because like here in Canada, a drink is costing like $7 to $10 per drink, and you're only getting like an ounce. I'm like, it's not worth it. I'd rather, like when we've gone on vacation before, we'd pick up a bottle of rum and a bottle of vodka and make drinks in the evening in our hotel room if we wanted to have a drink. And usually we end up taking home the leftovers after our vacation. So, uh, we're gonna in my apple. Ooh, Captain Morgan. Alcohol cooks down. Ooh, yum. I was in Canada a couple of years ago. Well, where I live is in the suburb of Ottawa. So that's it's about 2 hours away from Montreal drive, and about 5 hours from Toronto. Yeah, you'd have to ask for the sauce, or well, it depends on where you go. So some of the steak houses, steak restaurants, they'll have their own like a pepper sauce or whatever sauce with the steak. Um, I went through Canada to Alaska. Ooh, that's another place I'd like to go. Like in the summertime, not in the wintertime, because it's cold enough here. I don't. I speak a little bit of French, un petit peu, but not a lot. My husband's bilingual. My kids were in early French immersion up till grade 3, and then they switched to the English school because just because of different learning styles, and the services just weren't there. But my husband, he speaks French. Actually, he works in Gatineau in Quebec. He's with the federal government, so he actually has to travel over the border to go to work, because that's where his office is. So I love it. Very cool. I've never been to Germany. My stepmom, her son married a German lady, and her name is, not was, is Manuela, and then they moved here. I think about 10 years ago, 8 years ago. They had two kids, Jorn, Tobin, and Jonathan. So spelt the German way with a bunch of A's. Um, but yeah, they talk about the rich sauces and the spatzel and the schnitzels and stuff. Germany, what I did most of my shopping there. Well, isn't that neat? So like I got you go shopping, cross border shopping. um, well, from where I live, I can I can drive to the States in an hour. To Ogdensburg, New York, from where I live. And I've done that with friends doing some cross border shopping too. But now with the Canadian dollar, it's not worth it. I mean, our Canadian dollar is I think 77 cents compared to the American dollar. So even if we bought stuff that's cheaper in the States, here it's still an extra like almost 25-30 cents more per dollar, plus some things we have to pay duty on it. So I've gone over and bought stuff in the States, grocery wise and that, because they have a lot of, like right now, pumpkin spice. We don't get a lot of that over here, um, only a few things. And, but I haven't honestly traveled um, shopping to the States since uh, Trump has gone in power. So just because I don't drive, so I rely on rides with friends, and they haven't traveled down there since then. Because also the dollar has our dollar was at par last summer, and since then it's gone down. So it's when our dollar is not at par or close to par, it's not really worth it. Ooh, yes. I made a like a pumpkin spice, excuse me, pumpkin spice recipe um, of just the pumpkin spices when I've run out of pumpkin spice. Or, like, for example, in the springtime, it's hard to find actually pumpkin spice anywhere, the spice. But here, the only things we've had that with pumpkin spice, there's been, I think, a pumpkin spice cereal, maybe a Cheerios or something I've seen. There was a pumpkin spice cookie. Well, that's good. That yeah, you have to save money where you can, and if you can, 50 minutes is not far to shop. I mean, like for me, for us going to the States, we've done it in a day. Like, so we do shopping, we'll do dinner or whatever, and come back. Um, but yeah, if stuff is cheaper, then oops, there's something to pop up. Cheaper. I definitely I love saving money on especially groceries. I actually really like shopping for groceries. I'm strange. If I could have a job of like doing other people's grocery shopping and saving them money with their money, um, I would. If and I could get paid to do that, I would love to do that because I find just the thrill of shopping and getting the best prices. It's just my idea of fun. I know it's kind of lame. Yeah, I'm lucky that I live in the suburbs of a big city, and where I actually physically live, I can walk to the Food Basics, which is about a 15-minute walk, or I could walk to Walmart, also about 15 minutes. But it's not a superstore Walmart, so it doesn't have any fresh produce. We do have one. It's just at the other end of the city. Um, well, it's about a 10-minute drive from my house, but to walk there, it would take about 45 minutes or so. And they have it's one of those super Walmarts that has a fruits and veggies and freezer section. Um, but where I live, there's about mm, 7 grocery stores within a 2-kilometer radius. So I could walk technically to them, um, or take the bus. I rely on public transportation almost wherever we go, or rides from friends. Like for example, my daughter, um, was on a short-term placement this past week at W. Ross. I have a video in my links of, it's the School for the Blind there. We were there last month, and she was there this month for an art and music like placement. So they did a whole bunch of art and music and had fun stuff. But they flew them back on the small charter planes, and it was delayed because we had snow last night. So they were supposed to get in about 8:30, 8:45, and the plane didn't come in until 10. But I have to take the bus, so it takes me an hour and a half by bus because the way the bus, I only take two buses, but the way that they have to go downtown and then to the airport, versus where I am. If I could drive to the airport, it's about 26 minutes, but I don't drive. And I didn't want to spend money on a taxi or Uber because that's like $25-$30 each way, and it's not worth it. Okay, well, nice talking to you, Yuti. It's been nice chatting with him. I'm glad people popped in onto my live feed. I didn't know if anybody would. See you later. I'm uploading my grocery haul from November 9th right now. I was having trouble finding all my little clips of videos. And then I'll be uploading the one from this week. Oh, now I forgot. I'm just so happy that people showed up. Bye. I'm international. I have somebody from Utah and somebody from Belgium. I think that's kind of neat. So, Michelle, are you a stay-at-home mom or retired or work from home? Because it's like 12:30 right now, almost in the middle of the day, like 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Retired. Well, you don't. From your picture on your thing, you don't look old enough to be retired. Do you have kids that are grown? I guess because you said I think it was just you and your husband at home. Oh, well then you retired young because most people don't retire till they're like 60 or so. I don't know. At least up here, most people don't retire till they're 60 unless they work in like the military or the government, and they have a really good benefits package that if you've been there for more than, I think, 25 years, you can retire early. So if you started working there when you were 20, you could technically retire at like 45, 50. If you've been 25 years, you get like 80% of your package right away. But if you're there like 30 years, you can get like 100% or something. I don't know the details on that. But they're not great packages, but definitely you can live off of. But what's nice here in Canada is that, like, if you work for the government and you retire, you can still pay into the benefit package for your insurance and stuff. So you still pay your, what, $20 a month or whatever for your prescriptions and eye care and dental and upgrades on hospitals. So in Canada, we have OHIP, and so if you get sick, you go to the hospital. They'll take care of you. Doesn't cost you a dime. You'd be in a ward, so the wards are usually 4 beds for a room. If you want to go to a semi-private, which is 2 beds per room, you pay extra, let's say $80 per day. If you want a private room, you pay, say, $200 per day or whatever. I don't know, I'm just using those numbers off, like, just as random numbers. But if you pay for your insurance, like if my husband's with the government, we don't have the premium package. We have like the everyday package. So that everyday package covers anybody in our family to go in a semi-private room. Manage restaurants. Oh, retired military. Thank you for your service. My I don't have my father-in-law's grandfather was in the Canadian military. My grandfather tried to be in the military for World War II, but he was colorblind, and that was a no-no. So he ended up working on the trains here of moving military stuff. So he was not in the military, but I don't know on my mother's side um, if there was any military service. But the only thing I know is on my in-laws. My father-in-law's grandfather was in the military. Oops. No. Oh, I'm going to plug my phone in because it's now starting to die. Just a second. And I'll be right back. I'm going to find a battery to charge my phone. I'm back. Let's see. Have a battery. It's an Aukey 16,000 mAh battery. Should give it a little bit of charge. There. That and travel was the two. Yeah. Well, I like so the military. They have healthcare included. Because that was one thing I was wondering with the states is if it's included in your service, because I know that like up here in Canada, if you're in the military, it's included, and then you could have extra packages for like semi-private or private care and stuff like that. And you don't have to go to any special hospitals. Like you go to any hospital and they'll take care of you. Um, and they just do their thing. And I was wondering, like with the states, if you have to go to any special hospitals or if there's a lot of like paperwork and rigmarole. Because I've heard like the amount of news that we get here that sometimes like veterans are having difficulty getting care or whatever. I guess it depends on where you live and I guess what services are available. But I know that in the military here, you get a decent pay. It's not a high end pay. You're getting like average pay, and then if you're higher up, you'll get like say let's say $60,000 a year, which is pretty good pay. Um, but you're not going to get like the $150,000 a year where you could in the high tech field or in the private sector or anything like that. With the government, you start off usually about 30 something a year, 30 grand a year, and depending on where you start, up to about 100 grand, unless you get up to the director generals and all that stuff, you can get more than 100 grand. But that's also Canadian dollars, so it 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 depends on like where you work and stuff. Here, where I live, it's about 15, 20 minutes I could drive to the closest hospital. Um, but I have like one, two, four hospitals within half an hour driving distance. Veterans who don't retire only go to veteran hospital. so my husband can go to a VA or regular hospital since he is retired. Well, how can you be a veteran and not retire? Is that you became a veteran? Because I thought that's like you kind of retired. You might have had to early retire because you got too injured to do the job you were hired for. Do they do a lot of accommodations for military people who get injured, um, that they can't do the job that they were originally hired for, but they can do like a desk job because of their injuries? I know here in Canada and the government, if you get injured, whether on the job or not on the job, uh, they will make as much accommodations that they can and try and find you some um, desk job work, so you can still continue having a job. Otherwise, you can you go on disability, from the veteran is someone who went to war, even if they are not wounded. Okay. Okay, so if they're currently still working for the military, they have to go to a VA hospital. But if they're retired, they can go to a VA hospital or the regular hospital. Is that correct? See, I thought, yeah, I knew veterans was ones that went to war, but I wasn't too sure about the whole retired and veterans. And do you guys move a lot too? Here in Canada, I think the your position is at a spot for, I think, 3 or 4 years, depending on your skills, and then you could be positioned anywhere in the city. No, the VA is for vets that no longer work for the military. Okay, so they're. But if your husband retired, he can go to either. But if they were veterans, but then like quit being in the military and say worked public sector or went on disability or something, then they can go to the VA hospital. Just curious, because we don't have a veterans well, we have a like in Ottawa we do sort of. Okay, cool. We have a veterans hospital slash retirement home where if veterans, they can go anywhere to any hospital in the country, but in Ottawa there's one that's like a veterans hospital slash retirement home. So if you're a veteran or ex-military, um, and you need to go into a retirement home, you can go there. On their waiting list, because every place has a waiting list, and it's covered by the government. Um, but the other, we have nursing homes or retirement homes. Some are covered by the government by your OHIP, our universal health care type things, but the waiting lists are like long. Um, and then there's private ones here where, depending on the amount of services, like it seems to be like if you ever go on a cruise, there's like, this is your room rate, it, and if you want, and this is your room rate with like breakfast, lunch, and supper. Okay, if you want other services, here's this level. If you want a larger room, this level. If you want not having, a private room, this level. So, and then there's even some places that it's just your room rate, so it's just like an apartment, um, that you share with someone. I'm thinking, like, I think it's like like I think there's only sometimes two in a room. But but the meals are extra, so it's kind of like the um, the meal cards you have in some schools. Like here in Canada, we don't have like the hot meals that you get a card, but I've heard in the States they have like put money on a card, but we do for university and college. Like you can get a meal card in high schools. You just, if your kid wants a hot meal, you give them some money and they get it from the cafeteria. Otherwise, you pack them a lunch. But you could put like money on a meal card, and if they don't want, they can go to the cafeteria type restaurant and they could pick and choose their food of what they want. And so that way you're not necessarily paying a lot of money for food that your parents might not eat, because, but it all depends on the, has a home for vets that they can't take care of. They don't pay for it, but if they have disability pay, they lose. Yeah, well, I think that is too, like you get, so here in Ontario, if you're on disability, if that's provincial disability, versus your work disability. So if you have a disability, you apply for it, you have the doctor's notes. If you're living at home, so if you're living, like, say my daughter applied for disability, you can't apply for it until you're 18. If you get disability and she's living at home, she can get like $400 a month for living at home. Now, if she was living on her own, she would get about $1,200 a month to pay for rent and food and bills and stuff, which in Ottawa is crazy. This is military disability. But yeah, I'm just saying regular disability because I don't know about our military disability. I know that if you're disabled in the military, you get an extra thing. So if I was a military person, I can get Ontario disability, which is a smaller amount because I have my work disability. So, for example, if my husband became disabled and had to quit work, he can get the government, like, because he works for the federal government, he can get the federal government disability pay as well as the Ontario disability pay, but not like the whole amount. There's like a maximum of amounts. So it's in your best interest to have them, if you have private disability, which you've paid in through your insurance. Like, so if in the military, you're paying it in through your work and your insurance and your coverage that you have there. But here, even if you're on disability, unless you live maybe out in the country and have ability to drive places, because rent in any of the big cities, like a 1-bedroom apartment here, $800. You can get a few less than that, but you're paying $800 for a crappy apartment, $1,000 for a decent apartment or in a decent neighborhood. And townhouses here rent for like 14 or up, like 1,400 in like close to the projects area, or 2,000 in the suburbs. 16 to 2,000 in the suburbs. So a lot of people that are on disability or lower income, they'll share a house with like 4 people and get like a 3 or 4 bedroom house. So they only have to spend like $300 or $400 of their disability pay for accommodations, and then they have more money for food and bills and stuff like that. Only problem is that you have to find a group of people that you like spending time with. In my younger days, when I was in college, I shared a house with a couple people, and I found I'm not very good with roommates. um, Especially girls. I don't. Other women and myself as roommates, not so much, because I think it's like an alpha female thing. Hey, Maniac Grammys Homestead. Hi. We were talking about this wonderful cookbook I found at our local thrift store, Value Village. Recipes for Leftovers. Company's coming. I'm going to be doing a bunch of recipes from here Like today I'm cooking roast beef. I'm cooking 2 of them to have leftovers to make some of these recipes. I found a few that I want to make, like this curried beef in toast cups, and that one I want to make, and this, what is it? Well, that's the picture of it. The tasty beef rolls. It looks like cinnamon rolls, doesn't it? But that's like chopped beef in there in like a. This is just a biscuit, like I said, a biscuit recipe. So I'll make that from scratch because I don't usually buy the Bisquick stuff. And this was like a beef phyllo beef casserole. So it was like they put the phyllo pastry on the top. That's why I love this book, is that they have pictures and they tell you where the stuff is. Like that one's the avocado beef buns. Sorry, I'm just checking the messages. Here. She got VA rates and $1,600. Okay, well that's nice that that your daughter can get benefits as well as work. Here in Ontario, um, if you just have Ontario disability, like you don't have private benefits, your first $200 that you make is free, or like it's covered is free. But every dollar amount over that amount, you get 50% off of that, off your pay. So it's there unless you're a student. If you're a student, you can work while you're in school on disability, and 100% of your income is yours. If you were not a student and you make more than $200 a month, your first 200 is free. Your next 200, like say you've made $400 that month, that that 200, 100 would be taken off of your check. So if your check was 1,200, you only get 1,100 because you've made 400 more. So you're still but you'll still get the benefits of, you'll have the free dental, eye care, and prescriptions card when you're on disability. So that is like the benefits of Canada, that if you actually are here and you get a disability because of injury or illness, or like basically here, if you get cancer, you can go on disability, and you'll get this amount of money that will help pay for your prescriptions. Because here, even though our healthcare is free, prescriptions is not. But here, also, if you're on social assistance, or what used to be called welfare, you'll get a drug card too that will cover your prescriptions. But they have like a list of the prescriptions that it covers. So certain ones, and it has to be like, I think, the generic brand, unless your doctor specifically says you have to have this certain name brand, and then it has to be reviewed. But like there's a list of prescriptions that you can get that will be covered, but some prescriptions aren't covered, and then that's why there's other programs that you could apply for. Like I know a friend of mine, she was going through cancer treatment. She needed a specific cancer type drug that was like, it was a new trial one, or new on the market, so it wasn't on the list. So she can get all of her other cancer drugs covered, but this other drug was like $1,000 pill once a month. Like it was a crazy amount. She could apply through a different foundation, Trillium Foundation in Ontario, that will cover 80% of this thing. So you have to apply for it, and then if you can't afford still that extra 20%, you could apply for places like March of Dimes or Easter Seals, or um, different Canadian, I think Canadian Cancer Society, they might cover the amounts. So if you can't afford it, so this is the difference between like Canada and the States, is that um, up here in Canada, if you get sick, you're you're not going to necessarily lose your house to pay medical bills. Like you go to the hospital, you're in the hospital, you get, the only bill you have to pay for usually is about $50 for an ambulance, because your OHIP card covers like $150 of the $200 charge of an ambulance fee. So that extra $50. Now, if you have insurance, insurance pays that $50. So you don't have to pay that. So that's about the extent of, if you need an ambulance, it kind of discourages people to taking an ambulance for non-emergency things. But you go to the hospital, you'll get surgery, you'll get MRI, you get CAT scan, you'll get X-ray. Sometimes these things have a bit of a wait list because there's only so many machines and so many hospitals. And they might say, well, you can get it done a bit sooner if you want to travel, 2 hours away to this hospital. Because, we already have bookings until January, unless it's an emergency one. So that's where they bump people up for, like, literally they're dying. But other things, like, if it can wait, there'll be a bit of a wait. But that's about it now. And we have different programs depending on your income type level that you can apply for to... Oh, stupid cat. Okay, this is Princess. Yes. She's like, you're sitting on the couch. You're not paying attention to me. Right, Princess? Stupid cat. You're gonna knock stuff down. And of course what are you doing? Yes, this is Princess. She purrs like crazy. Can you hear her purring? Yes. She's like, oh, Mommy, you're sitting on the couch. That means you want to pet me. And I'm like, no, that doesn't. Right? But, yeah. Oh, I got distracted. I have 600 cats. I want to. Yes, I hear. Yes, you should. If I actually pet her, she gets even louder and she gets super excited. Like, I think she has a deviated septum here, that when she purrs and she gets really excited and she breathes in, her nose whistles, so it's like purr 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 wee, purr 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 wee. It's funny. So I have two indoor cats. This is Princess. She's the white and gray cat. And then we have another cat named Sushi. She's black and white with green eyes. My youngest daughter named her after, sushi. And because the name that the previous owner gave her was like Susie or Sally or something like that. And I don't like real people names on animals. Oh, see there. um, so, but that's definitely her cat. That cat, like, hi, can you see me? Hi, sensible living with Money Mom. Hey, how's it going? What you're hearing right now is my cat Princess deciding to actually love me. Yeah, we got Princess. A friend of ours got a couple cats from a friend of theirs, and other things. And she got a brother and sister, and she got them home, and she went to go fix the mom, or fix the sister, and she was told she couldn't because she was already pregnant. So she was pregnant with a brother and sister. So this was one of the kittens, and she couldn't keep all the cats. So we got this one because we wanted a lap cat. As you could tell, this is definitely a lap cat, right, Princess? And we got her, and we had another cat before named Smokey, which was a gray tabby that we got again from somebody's cat accidentally got pregnant, and then all of a sudden they had these kittens. And that also happened with our Sushi, we were looking at the Humane Society of Cats, and just sorry, thank you. And there, and then a friend came up with it. Oh, we're getting messages. There we go. That we saw on an online list that um, this lady was wanting to get rid of kittens, and they had, again, like they were in an apartment building or whatever. And the cat got out and got pregnant, and they wanted to keep the mom but not the kittens, and they got the mom fixed after the kittens. So, and I'm like, yeah, we've rescued them, have to get them, fixed and all that stuff. 3 of our someone don't. Oh my god, hard. They were just born. Oh, that's sad. I'm glad that they survived. Yeah, because I mean, my mom um, had a cat and had kittens once, and then we got her fixed. We didn't realize that she was pregnant when we got her. So they had mysterious kittens. Um, but when they're small, one of the kittens wasn't nursing well, and we had to feed it with a little bottle. So what we did was, like, I had, the dolls that you fed with the little bottle. You put like little like powdered milk and things, and you fed the doll, and it peed and pooped and all that stuff. we took that little baby bottle that you put that stuff in, and we put like they have cartons of kitty milk or whatever, or cat milk or something in it, and you mix it with water or something, and we fed a kitten this stuff for, I don't know, a while. I was a kid. I was like 10 or something like that. I just remember having to do that with one of the kittens because it was just not latching on, or not, feeding. We had to do it for like a week or so. Um, yeah, what are your cats' names? Mine are Princess and Sushi, and we had one that passed away, I guess, about 7 years ago, just before we got Sushi, named Smokey. And then the one, literally, I guess, 14 years ago, it was named Patches, and it looked like Princess hair. It was black. It was gray and white. And it passed away on my birthday 14 years ago, um, when we moved, um, before I had my youngest. And then Smokey was about, and all my last two cats, my cat's Patches was 19 years old when she died, and Smokey was 18, almost 19, like 18 and a half. And they just eat the Kirkland brand Costco cat food. And, Christmas and birthdays, and their birthdays and holidays, we get them some soft food. But we find that with the soft food, they get lots of fur balls, and we get, like, fur balls everywhere, so we just don't do that. But they like the soft food, but not much, right? And they like cheese strings. My husband likes to string the cheese and dangle it, and the cats will go and eat it. And they eat, whenever everybody has cereal, there's always some leftover milk at the bottom. They'll go and they'll eat that. And same with like tuna juices or canned fish juices. So, but not yesterday. Saturday, I had a bowl of cereal, and I gave the cats my milk. Okay, they both had some milk. They left it there, and I noticed. I'm like, okay, the next morning, that evening, if they're still there. I'm the only one that has cats that will, like, oh, I'll take my milk, but then I'll leave some for later. That evening, I'm like, okay, I just left it there. And then by the morning, it was all gone. But I'm like, seriously, cats are strange. And, I could leave food out, like, on the table, and they won't adventure, usually, for that. Cleo Patches after my favorite cat Patches, yeah. Buttercup, Spunky Love, Bucket. On cute names. See, I love pet names that are not people names. Or like I saw somebody who had um, I think it was their cat or dog. It was named oh shoot, my brain just went blank. You know the little potato puffs? They're like little tubes. That was its name. Um, they put in casseroles sometimes. Shoot, brain went blank. I need another coffee. um, oh, what's it called? Potato. What's it called? Do you know what those little potato puffs are called? They're about like an inch long and they look like little cylinders. Pudge Monster Frosty Captain Cuddles. Those are cute. Do you know what those little puff things are called? Potato puffs that you can buy in a bag. And the cracked chicken casserole, you use them in. Trying to think what they're called. My brain just went blank. Let's get back to work. Okay, well, bye. Thanks for popping in. We were having a chat. Check on the video at the beginning. I was talking about this leftover cookbook that I'm inspired to make a bunch of these recipes, whether I have leftovers or not. um, they look really, really, really good. And I'm cooking roast beef right now specifically so that tomorrow I can make one of these recipes. Bye! Speaking of food, what time is it? It's 1 o'clock here. So I got my black one, Jamie. Aw, he went through so much to keep him up. Didn't want to stress him out. Yeah, I hate when you rescue a cat and they're on their last legs. Like my mom used to take in strays all over the place. At one point, I think we had like 6 cats in our apartment. It was like crazy. Um, but one of them, it was all skin and bones and stuff, and we always brought them to the vet and stuff like that. And the vet's like, yeah, it's got like cancer and stuff. It's like, ugh, like, just sucks, you know. So we gave it as good of a life. Like it wasn't in pain or anything like that. It had some like the doctor checked and it kind of fattened up a bit with the food that we gave it, but it didn't last very long. It was maybe a few months, which is sad, and especially like when you get them from rescues or whatever, like the life that they had um, previously wasn't a good. I mean, wasn't a good life. Well, that's cool. He was able to be saved. So he was dying of something that was able to be saved. That's nice. See, we had one that it was not surgery wouldn't help it, and it only lasted like another maybe about 6 months or so. But it lived a really good life. Like we're like, yeah, you can have some tuna. you know, we it was not in pain. Like we did have some meds for it to make it as um, comfortable as possible. But what I don't understand is why veterinarian bills and like pet meds are so expensive. Like one of our cats, we used to have to give it half of a Valium, like literally half a Valium pill, like it was literally from the pharmacy that we had to cut in half. But the prescription for the cat cost like something like $60 for like 6 pills, and for a human it was less. Oh, ouch, mouth ulcers. My mom had those when she was going through chemo. She had so she would have when she was going through chemo, she took a lot of smoothies and soft foods because any anything hard was rough on her mouth. But, well, it's 1 o'clock, and I'm smelling my roast beef right now, so that's driving my tummy hungry. So I think I'm going to be cutting this short. It was nice chatting with you for an hour and a half almost. Wow. It was lots of fun. Yeah, vet bills. Like getting a cat fixed here in Canada, it's like $400 minimum to just get them fixed. Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you. Feel free to comment below, check out my other videos. Um, and I'll definitely check out that Spice Mixes channel too to go and find some new recipes and new spice mixes. So, bye, and look forward to. I'll show the book when I do some recipes from it, and I'll take a picture of the recipe or scan it in or something, or type it out, or try and find the link to the recipe because I know that there's a website, the Company's Coming website. I think it's companiescoming.com. Yep, companiescoming.com. You can find some of the recipes on there. But, oh, that's the other cat. She just went meow. But, bye.